That is fine.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am sitting here with a chartered accountant, Lazola Momo. He is from Etinaga. You call it Kariega now.
Kariega now, yeah.
So we've changed and we are moving with the times. And but now he's based in Cape Town with his family. I just wanted him to come briefly and talk to us about some of the challenges and maybe some of the solution we could start to do to implement at a family level, at a household level, if you can, even at regional municipal level, if you have enough time to get into that, just to deal with the tough times. But I have one of the most brainiest men I've ever met, Lazola Momo. Welcome, David.
Thank you, sir.
I'm happy to have you. I'm happy to have you.
Yes, same here, same
Yes,
here.
people do not know that when I write something, I send it to you to find out if inayo nyani is sense
Yeah.
or it has any social, worth. Maybe briefly, do you remember anything I've sent to you? Do you want to have a reflection from the first book to this one?
Yeah.
The second one,
The first one was very nice because,
or writing the way, yes.
yeah, writing the way, because it was sort of, especially for, I would say for us accountants, always like patterns and flows.
Yes.
So you could see easily the pattern and the flow. The second one, I'd say, I think each chapter could have been a book on itself.
Yes.
So it was trying to make it broad, to see if there's a broadness into it, so that maybe the next ones can get into certain topics.
Yes,
I remember there was one topic where like, hey, this one, it's like a current thing. And then like, okay, well, I'll delay it for the next time. Like, okay,
We
yeah.
didn't put that topic, otherwise our household was going to fall apart. So we took a chapter and then we delayed it for strategic reasons. So there's more
Yeah,
that we can
yeah.
still talk about. So in the first book, the first book was quite broad in different sections. I really focused on a number of social issues that I wanted to pull out as topics,
Yeah.
and focus on what I talked about when I'm invited as a guest speaker. And then the second one, the leadership one, I just went into one of those chapters and wanted to broaden that one chapter out. And then I think even then that is still not broad enough. I'm realizing that there can be more depth in what we put out. But I'm going to leave that for now. But this is the chartered accountant that sort of eye bounds my ideas on. But because this thing has a history, we used to enjoy Dr. Miles Monroe's books and audios and videos that we watched back in the day, and to some extent he's still alive, I suppose.
Correct,
through
yeah.
through how we view the world and
Yes.
how do you remember Miles, Dr. Miles?
I still listen to some of his stuff, because especially now on The Kingdom, I think it was the last thing that he was into before he passed away.
Yes, discovering the kingdom.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What I think what I appreciate the most is principles and concepts that he's able to articulate.
Yes.
And these guys will sometimes call me Dr. Is it Dr. Henderson?
Yeah.
Jimmy? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So I remember we went to a workshop and he made me understand what is a principle. Since I understood what's a principle, that it's really something that works all the time. It doesn't
Yes.
matter the season or what's happening around, but if it works all the time, then it's really a principle. An example, well, we'll call it a law, but the law of gravity.
Yes.
So principles are sort of in that line, that irrespective of what, if you think you're gonna fly, if you jump, the law of gravity
Will still apply.
But also we know there's law of lift, so you just need to find law of lift, then you can fly.
Fly and use
Yeah.
aerodynamics.
So what I like about Miles is he's teaching principles that if we grasp them, no matter what we do, no matter or what we do in line with those principles, doesn't matter what time, season, what's happening. At least you know that if I follow this, it's going to take me there where I want to get. Yeah.
So again, we're moving very fast. We would not, we would actually have to spend so much time. I just want to really introduce you into my community,
Yes.
as you have been before. This is the only person that I know that used to have a budget university for his spending, monthly spending as a student.
Uh,
And I'm sure he can draw a graph, of his finances from those days or even before. The society is experiencing a lot of economic challenges. I hear now recently that the interest rates might actually go down. But I wanted to find out, Wuti, because of how tough the economic times are, how first and foremost we're going to deal with the professional life, like the work you do with the city of Cape Town. But just at a household level, how do people get through? What are some of the ways to get through an economic tough time?
yeah. Um, as I was coming, there's the book that I gave to you now. I think it's there's the article from the former statistician general.
Yes,
Uh,
Dr.
and
Paneli
then,
Host.
yeah, and then
Yes.
I think there's a stat there that I think 70% of the country is earning below a certain amount, and about 3% um, is about, let's say, at 50K a month or so. And then I was like, yo, there's a lot of people really that
That are
that
below.
that are
Yes,
below.
that, yes.
Yes, I think going back to principles, there's a thing in me now to say, okay, how do I build? And I think we're trying to be sophisticated and complex about it, whereas we can actually try to look at the simple things. I'm actually reminded there was one guy, he was really at the starting stage into going to business. And then I think at that point where we were speaking with him, me and my former housemate in Cape Town, and then we were speaking to him, and it was at the point where he had just gotten a deal and was working with some guys on, I think it was some tech thing. And then we were speaking to him, these are the ideas, and I was like, yo, you guys have these big ideas, want to change humanity. Just that small thing to get there. So I'm really looking for that. Not that to say that we can't start big, but
Yes,
it's
but
understanding the
practical.
times
Yes, yes,
and
yes,
the
yes.
where
And
we
in fact,
are.
this is where the times are experienced at a family level, at a basic level.
Yeah,
So much duru up,
yeah,
see expensive up.
correct.
My milk doesn't finish the month anymore. So things like that. I can afford to pay school fees and still pay for all the excursions that they need to have, and
Yeah,
still have fuel until the end of the month, and the bond. And of course, it's not always easy to move scale down
yeah.
everything. I know people always say scale down and everything, but yeah,
I
you
think
can continue.
I think the first experience I can give is there was a time where I was on contract. I wasn't permanently working, and so I was getting money. Then I knew, you know what, this money needs to last me for this month. So whenever I got the money, immediately I knew this one goes into saving, so that later in the month I can able to do what I need to do.
Yes.
Interesting how it changed my mindset, because I would like, ish, so much money gone and I have so little to use at this time. But then I remember, I said, no, 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 look at it from the accounting equation. Owner's equity equals assets minus liabilities. Then I would like, okay, so I actually have assets. Then to try and counter that feeling of, your money is gone, sitting there, I can't touch it. I'll go and look at how much assets do I have, and they're like, oh, I have a good balance, I have a good amount when it comes to assets. Although I'll use it later on,
Yes.
but then that changed my mindset to say, you know what? Sometimes our focus is on we're spending, or more to the question where we, let's say, do a budget to say, okay, I earn so much, I can then spend so much on expenses, spend so much on savings, or yeah, save so much. So it's not a matter of saying, okay, the expenses are now small because I need to do some saving. Look at the big picture. The expenses are going down, but on the one side, you have assets going
That I
up.
got, yeah,
So I think
yeah.
if you are able to say, okay, what do I need to live what sort of assets do I need to live the life that I want to live? Then say, let's say the mark is 200K. That can give me some extra income in interest, just the basic. Then you can say, okay, let me start building that money. Yes,
How would that money build you
so I'm
income?
saying, so like each month you'll be saving. You'll say, decide, okay,
Yes.
I'm going to save this much.
And then you get to that 200K.
Yeah, you get that 200K.
What do
Maybe
you
with that
do?
200K, yeah, I was gonna come to that, but I
Yes.
didn't want to be so much detail.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So you probably, let's say in the time you're building up that 200K, you can say, okay, that 200K, maybe I can start a business, because the business as a whole can be, you can see it as an asset because it's
Yes,
going to
it will
bring you money.
generate
Because
more money.
in accounting, we say asset is something that you control that's going to bring you money.
Yeah.
So you can do, can invest in a business, or you can start your own business if that money can give you that start. Or if you say, okay, maybe more than that, or maybe can be a deposit for a loan that can help with starting that business. But the key thing first is to saying, okay, I'm building that up, is to say, okay, as I move step in terms of controlling my expenses, building up my savings to there, start seeing the big picture that, yes, I'm controlling here, but guess what? This is building up
Correct.
to that aspect.
Yeah.
So once you get to that aspect, you get to do what you have planned to do. Even if it was just to say, okay, I have this much money, I'll put it in shares and then they'll bring me this much dividends every year. But at least you've planned something, you've done it.
Yeah. There's
Now,
a
then
friend
it's
of
a matter
mine.
of then, and or the nice thing about that, once you start doing that, it opens your mind to that avenue. So let's say now when you are busy saving, but you want to invest, it opens your mind into investment world,
Yeah.
or you want to go and do business, then it opens your mind into the business world. So then you start to, yeah, I think key will be getting to interact with people who are in that space, because sometimes they can teach you other things that you don't know at the moment. And then that opens your mind up, and then you get to learn things that will make things easier. So then your 200K is there, you build up, it becomes more and more.
Okay. There's more that we can talk to when it comes to this. A friend of mine just asked me if he has an extra 1,000 rand, say at a monthly basis, what can he do with that 1,000 rand? So the immediate one would be to save, so that you can amass the amount of money that you can actually do something
Yeah,
with. Okay.
yes. And it's all, I think also just to go more so that we understand, sometimes when we say saving, we like, okay, savings account.
Yeah.
But there are also other types of savings, which we now will say is investments.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. You put in money so that it brings something.
Yeah.
The concept is one, but it's just different types. Yeah,
Of savings
because
one.
they simply because of sometimes because of the security involved and how much they can bring back to you. So if it's a bit risky, it will bring you more returns. But it's a bit safe, it might bring you a little less returns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're a chartered accountant. At a broader basis, what is a chartered accountant? A CASA.
A CAA, I will talk.
So when we write your name here, we're going to say Lazola Momo
Yeah, CASA.
CASA.
Yeah.
Yes.
So a CASA is a qualified professional in the fields of accounting, fields of management accounting, fields of tax, and field of auditing. And then also governance and risk comes into it. So this qualified professional learns all these different fields so that he can bring value into any form of business. Yeah, because the concepts you learn apply to any business and to any field. Because I think at the end of the day, always whenever I go out to the school visits we do with Abasa or Psych, I always said, guys, you can go anywhere, because anywhere you go, there's money. So you're gonna need someone to deal with your money. Simply accounting is really that, to account. Saying, okay, you've received so much, you spend so much, or you've received so much, you use so much, you invested so much. It's really being able to account. So financial accounting is really accounting to whoever is involved. So in a business, maybe you're let's say it's a sole proprietor, then I just need to account to you. But if it's a public company, then I need to account to all the shareholders that I have invested in that business.
So with Blackhead, at some stage, I remember we had this conversation, but answer it for the audience now, that there's a time where I could realize that we are actually, our income is coming, our revenue is increasing at, comfortably, but I didn't feel like we are retaining all the money as
Yeah,
much as we
yeah,
can.
yes.
What can someone who feels like that, what I can see the revenue is too high, but money just dissipates and it just fizzles away.
Yeah.
What would, as a CA, what would be
Yeah.
maybe the base challenges and solutions?
So one of the reasons I was so specific on financial accounting is because there's also financial management.
Yeah.
So it's basically managing their finances. You look more in them. There's more focus on the cost to say how do we manage the costs so that whatever money comes in, the income or the profit looks a bit high. But there's also a investment part of it, and then there's also a working capital part of it, which is what I'm coming to now.
Yeah.
So the working capital to say, okay, my business basically uses so much. There's so many fixed costs, like your rent. You know, those ones you're gonna
Yeah.
have to pay,
Yeah.
whether money is coming in or not coming in.
Yes.
Then there's the variable ones. Then those ones relate to operations.
Yeah.
If this operates, no, this cost is going to happen. If it doesn't operate, then the cost is not going to come. So I think it's understanding that working capital to say, okay, and then also it brings in cash flow management. So then you understand, okay, on average, these are my costs. On average, this is the income I get. Sometimes, depending on the business, it can be seasonal. One period, there's
It's
more
up.
income,
The other, yes.
then some period, the
Yes.
income goes down and then goes up again. So it's understanding how can you
Mitigate that
yes,
flow
that
so that the
flow.
highs are not too high or
Yes,
lows
yeah,
are too lows
correct.
and manage.
Or even if they
Maybe the
happen at
highs
their
can be too
timing,
high, the lows shouldn't be too low.
even though it happens at their timing, but it's
Yes.
making sure I have so much operational cash. Then if you know there's so much operational cash I have, then I have so much money to play with. So when I'm saying to play with is then to say, okay, where can I invest it? Can I maybe look at my, then I'd say financial analysis comes in to look at say, okay, my assets that I have, how much, if I look at the cost of it and I look at the income, and then I can say for every rand on this asset, I'm getting 2 rand. What happens if I buy more of this asset? Is it going
Is
to
it
give
going to
me more?
increase?
Then you can invest in your assets.
Yes. So
But if
some part of the investment can be internally by
correct,
actually increasing your
correct,
own
yeah,
asset as opposed
yes,
to an external
yeah.
investment.
So it's just looking and saying that money that I have is, yeah, it's key to understand how much you're going to need to operate. Then if you see if you've got money to play with, see, can I play with it inside to expand and make more, or can I go outside to get money outside, meaning you invest somewhere, money comes in.
Comes in.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move quickly. I know I'm answering some of the conversation I've been having with some of the local entrepreneurs and people that are driving organization, and these are some of the conversation we normally talk about. You are at the City of Cape Town as a monitoring and evaluation for the EPWP program.
Yeah.
What does that entail?
Yeah, so the Expanded Public Works Program, it's a national program to try and deal with the issue of poverty, inequality, and joblessness. It's temporary, it's not permanent. And personally, I'm happy it's temporary because I think we need to move people into a more permanent and structured process when it comes to people studying, going to to formal employment. Our focus should be more on that, but because of the issues and the numbers which are big, we need to have a temporary thing while we're getting there.
Yes.
So EPWP is really that temporary thing to get us there.
Yeah.
Even though it has done so much that it's beginning to work in certain areas, because I think the intention was that those who were not able to finish studying for whatever reasons, then they can have this opportunity and bring some money at home
Yes, in the interim.
while they in the
Yes.
interim they move into something formal and structured. So what we basically do is offer these opportunities. Initially, it was very short period, but we've tried to get it to a minimum a year, going to 3 years. Going to 3 years is because the focus is now on skilling these people because, as I said, most of them didn't finish schooling. So at least we get them to matric, those that need to get to matric. But there are still those who are graduates,
What are
they
the
will come
numbers? How
in and so
many,
forth.
like, do you have head count of some ballpark figures?
Our target as a city each year is about 35,000 opportunities. That's what we call it.
Okay.
So far we back to 40,000. It went down during COVID, the target, but the numbers were still a bit high. But then after COVID, it went back to that level of 40,000 opportunities. But I think the best one to look at is what we call a full-time equivalent, because it looks at working at the full span within a year. So that's the best one. We're about at 16,000. So you can say in a full year we have 16,000 people there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an amount of a lot of people, knowing that each of them are driving, are actually receiving income
Yeah.
at a house.
Yes, and they get work exposure.
And they can actually,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we want to make that work exposure meaningful by bringing training so that when they leave with something. It's not a matter of, okay, I got the work exposure, but there was nothing more concrete that they can take me forward.
Is it possible, because this is what I've always been thinking, to have an equivalent program for the emerging entrepreneurs who are not there yet, who need to actually pay for, maybe there are 2-3 staff members to be enlisted? I know it's not part of policy at the moment, but maybe it's an idea also to talk about.
Yeah,
about.
no, you're actually reminding me, we do
Because,
have an entrepreneurship program
yes, within the
the
EPWP.
EPWP that we started.
Yeah.
My colleague Masibulele, his focus with that one is not much the business aspect of it, but the individual
Yeah.
in that business. So it's more about
Yeah.
personal development,
Yeah, okay.
developing the person to understand who they are, what they are
Yes.
capable of
Yeah.
doing, and actually doing it. So because if they are right, then the business is going to be right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are important conversation, but Lazola is only with me briefly, and he has to go now. But I'm happy. I want him to conclude. He came to Nelson Mandela Bay to attend an event, MUO. I want to talk about it. And also, when I looked at your 2003
Yeah.
book, MUO, you actually achieved almost everything that is on that list of aspirations,
Yes.
but 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I know that you went to UPE, which is now Nelson Mandela University, as you had planned. I know that you became, and you did become RET, as you had planned, and completed it. And then you are now a chartered accountant,
Yeah.
and it's also part
Yeah,
of that
it's
list.
also,
And then you talked about 2010 World Cup, which was also done at that time. That was 2003.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then 2010 World Cup was 7 years later.
Yes.
And then you still have a dream to attend an F1
Race.
race.
Yeah.
And now we are lingering between hosting it or not. But
Of course, yeah.
but maybe going back to Mio,
Yeah.
what does that remind you as you go back to Cape Town? You just touch base with your route, I suppose.
Yes, and just being with the guys again, because most of us last met 2003, we're going separate routes. But I think the big part for me yesterday was seeing that we're at different stages now. Most of us are working, having families, and having kids. Yeah, and it was, I think, most importantly, the boyish, playish type of thing was still there, but yet
Yes.
now we understand we were matured now, we are adults now, and so
We
forth.
have
It was
responsibilities.
wonderful to see that there's maturity and so forth, and how now we support each other at that stage.
Thank you so much, Lazola Momo CA, everybody. I go to a couple of people when I'm going to put something out, and I normally want Lazola to be one of those people to look at the value, if it actually is consistent with the leadership question, as we had understood and were inspired back in the day. I know that he attends a lot of wine shows and actually in Cape Town, and that's one thing when I go to Cape Town, we also get to explore. But before you go and say goodbye to them and say your last word, tell us what's your favorite wine at the moment. And
Proudly South African, Pinotage.
yeah, it's a mixture of two grapes, by the
Yep,
way.
yeah. Red wine, I think, yeah, it's my favorite. Beginning to understand and like the MCCs now.
What are MCCs again?
The it's method cap classic, so it's the bubbles, or champagne. I think the French would say champagne. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm beginning to understand the varieties and the taste thereof. So it's, red wine, Pinotage, that's my favorite so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recently had the Mielast.
Okay.
It's a Meloa. It's like it's Mielast. I was not paying the bill. Someone was paying the bill. Let me not confess. But we used to have wine under my bed at university or his bed. And every time when we had a tough day, we just come and just have
Yeah.
wine. And nobody knew about it, but I'm telling everyone right now,
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Thank
You
you so
say the
much,
truth will
man.
come out eventually.
Enjoy.
Bye, guys.